Hello, dear students. How are you all? I hope you all are doing well and enjoying your study. Dear students, today we are going to study chapter number 4 from the Moments book. The title of the chapter is The Happy Prince, written by Oscar Wilde. Dear students, here you can see the portrait of Oscar Wilde. So now I would like to tell you a brief introduction of the author. Oscar Fingal O'Flaherty Wills Wilde was an Irish poet and playwright. After writing in different forms throughout the 1880s, the early 1890s saw him become one of the most popular playwrights in London. Dear students, let me introduce you the lesson The Happy Prince. This story is about a prince. When the prince was alive, he was very happy. After his death, a big statue of his was erected on a pedestal in the town. From there, the statue of Prince could see the entire city, and at that time he saw the miseries of the people. When he is narrated in the story, he saw the poor people, the homeless people, their hunger and starvation. The prince was sad to see all these miseries, sadness of the people. Dear students, in this chapter we will study the story of the Happy Prince. First of all, let me tell you the summary of the chapter, The Happy Prince. Once in a town there lived a prince. He was called Happy because when he was alive there was happiness in his town. He was called the Happy Prince because he had been happy all through his life. After his death, his statue was erected on a tall pedestal in the middle of the town in order to pay a respect to him. The statue was covered with gold and had two precious sapphire stones embedded in the eyes. A ruby stone had been fitted into the handle of his sword. From there, he could see all around the place and realized that the people lived in a lot of poverty and misery. This sight saddened the prince, and being helpless, he would weep to see the plight of his people. One day, a swallow bird was flying through the city on its way to Egypt to meet its friend. On the way, it took shelter for the night at the feet of the statue of Happy Prince. The bird realizes that the statue was weeping, and upon inquiry, it means when the bird asked, the Happy Prince realized the plight of the prince. The helpless prince requested the bird to help it by becoming its messenger. After initial refusal, the bird agreed to help and took the ruby stone out of the sword and delivered it to a poor seamstress. Seamstress means a woman who stitches clothes. The next morning, as he went to bid goodbye to the swallow, sorry, not to the swallow, to the prince, the statue convinced him to stay back for one day more. That day, the bird was asked to remove the sapphire stone from one of the statue's eyes and deliver it to a young playwright. Also, on the third day, the bird had to pull out the second sapphire stone for a poor match girl. By this time, the weather had become cold and the bird had developed an attachment with the statue. The bird did not want to leave the statue, which had now become blind. It had become blind because the statue had given its two eyes to the people, which were made up of the stone sapphire. The happy prince asked the bird to go around the city and inform him the condition of the people living there. The bird told him that the rich were making merry while the poor lived in misery. As the happy prince did not have any more precious stones, he ordered the bird to remove the gold foils from its body and distribute among the living who needed money for survival. Gradually, the statue of the prince lost its covering of gold and became dull and grey. On the other hand, the poor became joyous as they got bread to eat. The swallow bird was now unable to withstand the cold weather and realized that death was approaching. It informed the statue that it had to leave, and the statue who loved the bird asked it to kiss him. As the bird died and fell at the statue's feet, a strange sound came out of the statue, the sound of the breaking heart of the statue. Although the statue's heart was made up of lead, it broke as it was overwhelmed with affection towards the bird, and it was sad on the death of the bird. When the statue was melted in the furnace, the heart did not melt and was thrown in the garbage. It landed near the swallow's body. God's angels took both the dead swallow and the broken heart to him as they were the most precious things on land. Thus, the God blessed both of them because they were the pure souls.